I'm Lisa, the artist behind Lachri Fine Art. Today is Tuesday, so that means I will be critiquing one of your original paintings or drawings. If you have an original painting or drawing that you would like to submit for critique, head over to my website at lachri.com/critiques, link below in the video description, and you can submit your work there. Today we are taking a look at this landscape painting done by artist Terry Somerville. This painting is an 18 by 24 inch done in oil paint. Terry, you said that your goals were creating depth and impressionism. The depth you definitely got. Love that. As far as impressionism, if you're really going for impressionism, this is not a style that's typically considered that. This falls more under realism or stylized realism. With impressionism, if that really is your goal, you want to let your brush strokes show a bit more. Do heavier brush strokes, and it's done more with brush strokes versus dabbing and not so much with the blending. But this could just be an issue of a difference of what you and I consider impressionism. So if that's the case, I'm just going to go ahead and critique this as though it's more intended as the stylized realism versus impressionism. But again, if you did want impressionism, it's generally done with heavier brush strokes and lots of little brush strokes as well. Like you want to see the brush stroke more. Anyway, moving on. This is a beautiful, beautiful piece. I love it. You've definitely created depth in here. You feel like you could just walk right into the piece. I really want to go here. The clouds are just beautifully done. Your transition between your darker blues and into the lights of the clouds, absolutely gorgeous. Your shapes are really nice on that as well. For the mountain that's farthest back, well, really all of the mountains, the way that they fade down with that mist, beautifully done. And I keep looking down as usual because my notes and the photo is on my tablet in my lap. I think my two favorite things about this piece, which may sound odd, but I work with students who paint the style a lot, your rocks and your grass are just so well done. For this style, you just can't ask for better than what you've got here. The shapes of your rock, the way that you've got lighting on it, the way that you've done all of this with the palette knife, and then the way that you've got your grass that fades, the transition from, or the lines between the rock and the grass itself. It's nice. It's not just a straight line where it looks like the rocks were painted separately and just kind of floating on top of the painting. You've got it to where they look like they're a part of the grass or sitting in the grass. You've just done such a good job with that. So moving on to some of the adjustments that we can do to improve on this piece. Just a couple of minor things. First, those main trees that are closest to you. Those ones have a great shape, so that good job right there all on its own. The one thing that I might do is darken your dark green, your darkest color, the one that you lay down first. I would darken that up even further, and the reason for that is right now the rocks are your darkest thing, and they're kind of in one portion of the painting. If you darken those trees, it just kind of gives it a better overall balance, or get not really so much dark in the trees, just get some darker colors mixed in there with your lighter greens. You don't want to hype up the contrast too much because you don't want your attention just focusing straight in at those trees. It would just give it a nicer balance if you just slightly darken those the darkest color that you've got in there. Another thing that you want to watch when you're doing trees, don't go too uniform. When doing trees or bushes or anything like that, it's very important that you're messy with it. Keep a looser hand. You don't want to be so even and so uniformed on every single brush stroke. It makes it look too manicured, which gives it an unnatural look. Unless you're doing a landscaped yard, then you really want to keep it very loose. And even with the landscaped yards, the trees you would want to keep fairly loose. So for your highlights on there, a lot of them, I can see the type of brush stroke that you're making, and they're very even. Just loosen that up. Basically, when you're using, if you're using a fan brush to do this, which a lot of people do for that type of trees, you want to turn or kind of twist the brush slightly here and there so that it's not all exactly the same. Just get some variation in there. It'll give it a more natural look. Now your tree on the right hand side, that is the best of the bunch, the one that's kind of standing off by himself. It's great because your brush strokes are a little bit blockier. It's not so uniformed. It's exactly what I'm talking about as far as keeping that loose. So that's really nice. And the Photoshop job that I'm doing, this doesn't work that great in Photoshop the way that I'm doing this quickly. I just put it in there to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. And the one other adjustment on this piece would be the water itself. One thing that I really like that you did with your water is that you used the same blue from your sky as you did in the water. And that's something that's really important because those colors should reflect each other, or the water would reflect some of what's in the sky. So that just gives it more of a uniformed, like it makes the piece all work together. It looks like it's all a part of the same landscape. I also really like the pool of water at the base of the waterfall. The colors, the browns that you used in there, and the way that you've got your reflections, really nicely done there. The only thing I would adjust on that section is that you want to make sure your back line is completely horizontal. It's slightly angling up, and that wouldn't make sense because the water wouldn't be running uphill. You would want it to angle, keep it as horizontal as possible, which moves on to the next thing about the waterfall itself, or the whole water, the stream coming down. Right now the stream is very, very kind of wavy, and what you want to keep your lines a little bit more angular on here. First, you definitely want to get some more horizontal planes on there, and you can see in my terrible Photoshop job what I'm talking about. You want to see where the water is evening out, because every time that it's hitting or it's falling, it's evened out, and then it falls again, and then it should even out. And you want to make sure where it evens out, you want those horizontal lines. You want to make that very obvious, and that will give your waterfall a much more natural look. If it's all pouring down, and especially if it's pouring down and kind of wavy, it doesn't look like water anymore. It takes away from that natural stream type look. The other thing is that the entire stream is the exact same color going all the way down. You don't really have much variation. There's a few little areas with differences, but you don't have a whole lot of variation between your lights and your darks. And so you can see where I did on the Photoshop, where I evened those flatter planes out. I darkened those up quite a bit, and that gives you a lot more depth in that waterfall. You also want to make sure when you do those flat planes, where the water evens out, that has to be completely horizontal. It doesn't matter which angle you're looking at the waterfall. Anything that has that flat plane, you need to make sure that it's horizontal with your entire canvas. If it is slightly angled one way or another, it doesn't look right. That water has to be flat wherever it's sitting at those flat little surfaces. So you have the water where it's falling down, and you want to make sure the water that's falling down is very vertical too. You don't want a whole lot of wavy lines in here. The water's falling flat vertically, coming down this way, and then horizontal this way. Vertical again, horizontal. You can have some variation in there in different types of waterfall depending on if the wind is catching it. You'll have some differences on the type of waterfall and where it is. But for this type of look, it's going to be best if you keep things more vertical and horizontal. There are some diagonal lines, but not a whole lot, and definitely avoid the wavy lines. Now, a lot of people who do this style of painting, they start off by copying Bob Ross paintings. One of the things that you want to watch and keep in mind with Bob Ross, I love him for the fact that he got so many people painting who never would have even tried or been brave enough to paint before. He showed everyone that it's not that difficult to make beautiful work. The thing is, some people get trapped, and I'm not talking about you specifically because I'm not sure what you were looking at. It just brings up a good point, or something that I do want to make sure people are aware of. When you're studying art and you're studying painting and really getting down to the finer details, when you've been doing it more than 2 or 3 paintings as you get going, don't study Bob Ross so closely. He was great, and he did do beautiful paintings. He was great at getting people started, and his paintings, he had to have a painting done in, like, what was it, a half an hour or an hour show? He had to have that painting done very quickly. He was not an expert with perspective. He was not an expert with lighting or any of that. So what I've seen a lot of people do, where they've been studying Bob Ross for like 20 years, and they don't end up progressing that far because of that, because he didn't focus or have much in the way of lighting or perspective, or even layering, because his is all done wet into wet, so you can't layer, and you lose some depth when you don't layer like that. But make sure, and again, I'm not talking about you specifically, Terry, this painting just made me think of this because I do see this a lot. Just make sure that you're not studying Bob Ross exactly, like, because he's done some waterfalls and I've looked at it and it's like, that is not how water would typically move. I mean, I can tell it's supposed to be water, but that's not really how it lays. There's certain waves that he's done, the way that he's got the waters crashing. They're great, they're simple, they got people painting. I don't mean to bash him by any means, but you don't want to limit yourself to him. Anyway, back to your painting, Terry. You have done a beautiful job. Yeah, love your rocks, love how your grass and your rocks work together. That's my favorite part of this painting, and I know it sounds like a silly thing to pick on, or to pick out, that I like so much, but I see artists paint this style, or students paint this style all the time, and you have just nailed it. That is exactly what I think it should look like for that style of painting. And your clouds are wonderful. It really is. It's a beautiful piece. For any of you guys who would like to submit one of your original paintings or drawings for critique, head over to my website at lachri.com/critiques, link below in the video description. I have new video critiques every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central Time, and my own speed paintings and drawings and tutorials every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Central Time. So make sure you subscribe and follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, all those fun social media sites, links below in the video description, to keep up with news and my newest work. Make sure you head back tomorrow, where I will be doing an intro to airbrushing and tutorial on painting flames. I'll see you guys tomorrow.